They're in denial. They're in their denial phase. Number one, Howard Stern. Now, this was a bombshell, I thought. Not so much that he's been shown the door at SiriusXM, because he has not been relevant for a while now, but the way in which he found out that SiriusXM would really, their plan is to be done with him. And so this was an amazing report in the Daily Mail that he learned that. So this is the headline. Howard Stern. This is dated August 6th, 2025. The reporters are Christine Rendon and Eve Buckland. Headline: Howard Stern suffered brutal double humiliation when he discovered his show was, quote, doomed, including a call from best bud Jimmy Kimmel. Now, the synopsis of this story. Howard Stern's 95-strong staff had only one goal in mind when they gathered for a team-building bash in Manhattan. This was last Tuesday, so only 1 week ago. They're on summer break, which is another part of the reason Howard's irrelevant. He never used to take summer breaks before. Lately, of the past 5 years, I'm going to say, he's been doing so. They were all at Manhattan Spin Bar. I've never heard of it. It means it's lame. Not because I've never heard of it, but you know what I mean? It's in Midtown, whatever. A top Howard producer gave a speech saying that they were looking to book bigger, better guests for the forthcoming season and that they were going to be performing the, quote, best radio we can do. Now, a few hours later, they've scattered. A news alert comes, flashes on all of their phones. The show is done. Sirius XM has had enough. Thank you kindly. And the staff then frantically tried reaching longtime executive producer of the Stern Show, Gary Dell'Abate, and he would not reply, which means he was caught off guard and he's trying to talk to Howard or somebody like top at SiriusXM. Stern, according to this report in the Daily Mail, this exclusive, got the news also on his phone from a news alert while walking on the beach in Southampton, outside his beachfront manor. That is a fuck you for the ages, okay? That is them saying, we're going to play like we're going to offer you some sort of renewal, but it's going to be such a lowball number that you're not going to want to take it. So, but make no mistake, we're shivving you. Like, we're shivving you hardcore. This is a humiliation. You need to go. Now, again, this report, his celebrity pals, Jimmy Fallon and Ali Wentworth, who is best known for being the wife of ABC News' George Stephanopoulos. I cringe when I say that. Stern sent those calls to voicemail. He only picked up for his celebrity BFF, Jimmy Kimmel. And Stern reportedly was stunned. And he said to Kimmel, when Kimmel said in sum and substance, what's going on? Howard said, quote, first, I'm hearing of it. Now, back in April 2021, when I was still at the New York Post, I wrote this lengthy column about Stern's show just being dead. Like, it had been dead for a long time. COVID killed it off. Now, as I wrote back then, he was 67 back then. So he's 70 something now. I can't do the math in my head. It's really simple math and I can't do it in my head. I'm just being honest with you guys. I'm being vulnerable. Okay. So he renewed his contract with SiriusXM December of 2020. So he had signed for 5 years. So this is the contract that's coming up now. Okay. These numbers are just 5 years at a reported 120 million per year, which I found incredible. At the time, I said he works 3 days a week, 3 out of 5 business days, Monday through Wednesday. He broadcast maybe 3 hours per day. He did about 112 shows per year. That means 253 days off, which equated to a salary of over $1 million per show, a show that he was phoning in. Okay. I just took a look on Reddit to see what he's been up to lately because I haven't listened to the show in years. And that's a heartbreak to say because I was a commuter kid. Like, I commuted to school and like I would be on buses and trains and his show would keep me going in the mornings when I was so exhausted I could barely keep my eyes open. He would have me laughing so hard I would be in tears. And by the time I got to where I was going, I was like energized. And now this is what he's been doing. He's taking guitar lessons and he's been boring his audience with his progress on the guitar and talking to his guitar instructor. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? And the other thing they did, which really, they killed the news with Robin, which was always the end of the show. It was like the last half hour to hour. Robin would go through the top stories of the day and Howard would give his hot takes. And it was a cheap, easy hit part of the show. Cheap and easy to produce. The fans loved it and they just killed it. They just pulled it. I couldn't even tell you when because they never gave a warning. They never announced it. They never gave an explanation. It just disappeared. Now, if it's Monday, this is what I wrote at the time. If it's Monday on the Stern Show, you would typically get a wrap up of how Howard spent his weekend. And that typically involved how many Peloton classes he took, like in his own home, like he never left the house. Updates on, this is actually factual. If you look at the show, what he would talk about, his lifelong disordered eating habits. We would also get updates. I'm not exaggerating. This is what he would talk about, his current blood levels. Then he would rant about why the 1%ers who live near him in the Hamptons post-vaccine weren't wearing masks all the time, and that included outside. If his much younger model second wife Beth came up, it would be to discuss how efficiently she cleaned the house now that the maids were gone, because he couldn't have the maids in the house. Her eating habits, her blood levels, and the hundreds of rescue cats that cycle in and out of that house. And if The Bachelor or The Bachelorette was on, we would get a disquisition on that for about 45 minutes. So now, this is all to set the table. In 2013, this is how long his staff has hated him. Howard held a top secret crisis staff meeting called Revolution 2013. And at least one staffer recorded the whole thing and leaked it. And it has lived online ever since. And for those of you who have not had the chance to indulge, so he holds this meeting in this amphitheater. He's on stage. It's this big presentation. Revolution 2013. It's a big audio-visual presentation. And then underneath that on the screen, it says where we are going, how we are getting there. Let's look at Howard telling his disloyal staff, he doesn't know it, but we know it, what's up?
Leverage friends of the court. What do I mean by friends of the court? Whitney Cummings was doing jack shit when we found her. She was in clubs. She was going nowhere fast.
Oh my God. So he does not have the foresight. You know, as they say, never put anything in writing that you would never want the whole world to see. He does not have the foresight to realize that his entire staff, many of whom, again, loathe him, work in media. They work in radio. They work in satellite radio. They understand how to record things for audio and video. So there's Howard Stern saying, Whitney Cummings was doing jack shit when we found her. He says she was going nowhere fast. Why isn't she coming back on our show? I don't know. Maybe this kind of disloyalty, Howard, is the reason why. Maybe she hears what you have to say about her behind closed doors. Okay, let's listen and watch him going in on Jerry Seinfeld and Jon Stewart.
Jerry Seinfeld had a show called The Seinfeld Chronicles that was about to go off the air. He used our show. This woman was nowhere when she did our show. Jon Stewart used to come on when The Daily Show started and he'd be a regular guest. What happened to this guy? I haven't even fucking seen him in years.
Okay, that woman was Kathy Griffin, and he just bypassed her. He's a misogynist. And then he goes to Jon Stewart, and he goes, what happened to him? I haven't fucking seen him in years. Do you want to know something? I can tell you a little something, but it's about John Bon Jovi. Okay, he was a guest, an in-studio guest on Howard Stern's show twice. John Bon Jovi showed up in the lobby of the Sirius XM building, which I know well because it was right across the street and is right across the street from my old office And I've been in that building. And typically what happens is someone comes to pick you up from the show and escort you upstairs. And John Bon Jovi, if he's still flying the way he did when I would see him at the MTV studios, he doesn't come with an entourage. He doesn't even come with an assistant. He just comes by himself. He said to Howard, I've come to do your show not once but twice, scheduled appearances, and nobody came to get me, and so I just left. Here's Howard railing on two other famous male celebrities who he can't understand remain elusive on his show.
Adam Levine owes us, man. When he was coming in and doing the show, nobody was looking for him before The Voice. And David Letterman, I've done his show, I don't know how many times, probably 27 fucking times, and he's only been on our show twice.
Again, I think that should tell you something, Howard, and I think you should look within. I don't think these people like you. Now, Howard went on this amazing rant about why Brad Pitt has never been on his show and how they got to book Brad Pitt and how the person who's going to do it is a staffer, a very inelegant, uncouth, a kind of guy who is off-putting, named Richard Christie, who Howard used to just torment and berate and humiliate on air. And here's Howard telling Richard in front of the entire staff how Richard is going to book Brad Pitt.
So you fucking love Brad Pitt. Big deal. What good's that doing me? You've said it on the air. Why don't you write him a letter? But of course, you're going to hand it into this core group of people, the strategists. But you're going to be major in getting me Brad Pitt on the air. And talk about how inspired you were when you were sitting in Kansas and you saw a guy from Kansas make it, that you were ridiculed because you had posters of Brad Pitt on your wall. You were ridiculed on our
Okay,
show.
we could stop it right there. The audio is a little tinny, but he's basically saying to Richard two things. He says, you're a kid from Kansas and you loved Brad Pitt, and you're going to talk about how encouraging it was to see someone else from Kansas, namely Brad Pitt, make it. Brad Pitt is from Missouri. Everyone knows this. Everyone in media knows it. Secondly, not everyone in real life. I mean, what do you guys care? But you know what I'm saying? Secondly, he says, you're going to talk about how you got made fun of because as a kid, you had pictures of Brad Pitt up on your wall. He's basically calling the guy gay. Lovely. He's trying to humiliate him. He's trying to just humiliate the guy. And Howard should talk because all he talks about on his show, he's got a fixation with penises, ejaculation, and ejaculate. He does. So, just saying. Now, who Howard has a lot in common with? One, Sarah Jessica Parker. They are both around the same, well, they're both definitely Social Security age adjacent, if not. Howard's definitely, like, he's in his 70s. Sarah's like 60 something. They're New York City fixtures. They think more highly of themselves than the rest of us do. And they've been culturally irrelevant and grossly overpaid for years and years now. And they're both totally effing delulu. They cannot believe that the culture and the C-suites are showing them the door. Now, the latest on Sarah is that she is going nuts. And she is making her showrunner, Michael Patrick King, look like the liar he is. Just my opinion, by leaking that it wasn't, I think this is Sarah leaking it, I do, that it wasn't a voluntary artistic decision made by the two of them to end and just like that. No, HBO fired them and they did so ingloriously, and she is fuming. She is fuming. And just like Howard, Sarah is trying to shop around yet another iteration of something nobody wants. Nobody listens to Howard and nobody wants to watch Sarah as Carrie Bradshaw. So this reminded me of an episode of Sarah Jessica Parker. This was 7 years ago, but I doubt anything has changed because if you're like this, you are like this. I've known skinflints my whole life. I stay away from them. If I see somebody who is a terrible tipper, I'm out of there. Now, so Jerry had Sarah Jessica, again, they're great pals out here in the Hamptons, on his show. And when they finished their coffee and whatever they were eating, it's time to pay the bill. And watch what Sarah says is an appropriate tip.
Okay, the check is $37. How much tip would you leave?
10.
You go to hell.
That's not enough?
No.
Wait, you moved the decimals. It was a $40 check. You would leave $8 would be 20%. No, Russell, would you help me?
I'll help you. Because everyone's going to ask her, oh my God, you waited on Jerry Seinfeld and Sarah Jessica Parker. How much did they tip you?
How much did he
What do
tip
you want her to say?
$20?
Yeah, is that what you want to say? 10. You just moved
Oh
the
my
decimal
God.
point.
Second. Okay, wait. You're going to leave. Wow, big shot. Big shot. Unbelievable.
Gross?
Disgusting.
Garish?
Vulgar. No, it's lovely. I'm a
Evil
total but for real. Like, I know, all joking
What
aside.
is it real? What is real? You
Okay.
tell me what real is, and we'll have really gotten something out of
Really
this
glad we are not married.
Okay, so Jerry does the thing he always does on that show, which is just like double over in laughter, like Jimmy Fallon does on The Tonight Show. It's really embarrassing. However, this is a very important cultural artifact because it shows us. Sarah Jessica Parker says in that clip, it had to be bleeped out, like, I'm a real shit. And she is. You're a multi-millionaire. She was getting paid, reportedly, and I think this is lowball, $1 million per episode for Ingest Like That. Okay? So 10 episodes this season, 8, conservatively, she made between 25 and $30 million just for that alone. And she says she's going to give $8 on a tip to a hardworking service person. That's one of the hardest jobs you can do. And I always feel, I worked retail as a kid. I feel very grateful I never worked in the service industry because I think that is the hardest job, one of the hardest jobs there is. And she's sitting there going, okay, maybe I'll give $20. And Jerry's like trying to appeal to her ego, just saying like, hey, like she's gonna be asked, like, what did she tip? When she's saying like, I waited on Jerry, which is true, and Sarah, which is true, and she's like, I don't really care. She's an asshole. Okay, now, oh my God, I put it together while I was writing the show. Sarah, okay, so Carol Radziwill has modeled herself on Carrie Bradshaw and Sarah Jessica Parker. Remember, on Roni, Carol showed up as another sprightly 900-year-old woman. She was dating a much younger man who she allowed to move into her apartment, and she purchased a lot of expensive items and clothes for this guy. And she would ride around the city perched on the handlebars of his bicycle, no helmet, wearing pigtails. And she was just a whimsical girl, And she also stored her shoes, her designer shoes, in her oven. And when she went to renovate her place, she told the contractor to just take the oven out entirely because she never cooked. And the contractor was like, we're not doing that. What if you could delay your next 2 mortgage payments and finally get a little breathing room? With American Financing, that makes this idea possible. If you are feeling stretched by everyday expenses, groceries, gas, bills piling up, you are not alone. Most Americans are putting these expenses on credit cards, and there doesn't seem to be a way out for so many people. But American Financing can show you how to use your home's equity to pay off that debt. So call American Financing today before it gets to a point where those payments just become impossible. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are helping homeowners just like you restructure their loans and consolidate debt, all without upfront fees. And their customers are saving an average of $800 a month. That's like a $10,000 a year raise. It's fast, it's simple, and it could save your budget. So call now before it's too late. 866-885-1332. That's 866-885-1332, or visit americanfinancing.net/nerve.